Okay, here we go. Stand by. 3, 2, 1.
The thinking atheist. It's not a person. It's a symbol. An idea.
The population of atheists in this country is going through the roof.
Rejecting faith. Pursuing knowledge. Challenging the sacred.
If I tell the truth, it's because I tell the truth. Not because I put my hand on a book and made a wish.
And working together for a more rational world.
Take the risk of thinking for yourself. Much more happiness, truth, beauty, and wisdom will come to you that way.
Assume nothing. Question everything. And start thinking. This is the Thinking Atheist Podcast. Hosted by Seth Andrews.
I was talking to Natalie this morning. She was kind of down. And I said, well, what's up? And she said, I don't know, I just feel... How did she say it? She said, I feel like I've got like a heart of stone. She didn't say it that way. It sounds very melodramatic, but like I'm calloused. I'm tired and weary. And I said, well, what's up? And she said, you know, it's just everything. It's COVID, it's politics, the awfulness that we see all the time. It just wears you down, you know? I can relate. I feel the same way many times. I know you do as well. We're human. I think that's the reason it bothers us so much. It knocks you down. It's like after a while you develop these sort of calluses where you don't feel it as much. You become numb, but you don't want to be numb. You don't want to be that person that's totally insensitive. And so, I mean, I'm reminding her, you know, it's okay to feel this way. It's understandable. Allow yourself to feel that way, and we'll get through it. And I think I have to tell myself the same thing. Watching a lot of the awfulness that's coming out of the convention this week, and I'm just, so much of it resembles like this Dear Leader television, you know. I can't watch live. I can't. I would have an aneurysm if I watched it live. I go back and I read the transcripts. I try to discipline myself to read the full transcripts so I'm not cherry picking. And then I'll find video highlights or watch the videos where I can scroll them. But especially with all this God talk, God. I mean, I get both parties are doing it, and I think that Biden is trying to use God and faith to help win over perhaps some of the disenfranchised evangelicals. But more and more, these parties of God are not representing an increasingly secular United States. And to watch Trump, who knows fuck all about the Bible, continuing to tout God. What did he say yesterday? He said something like, we need God. He tweeted it. You know where he tweeted it from? His golf course. And then there are people who are going to lap this shit up and go, yes, he's pro-God. Amen. We're not a Christian nation. We're not a Christian nation. This is not a nation that belongs to any one religion. You Christian nationalists just need to go away. Go away. I marked a passage that relates to this. It's in my new book, Confessions of a Former Fox News Christian, available at sethandrews.com. Let me read this section. Think of it as a free 2-minute audiobook. Okay, it says this. Christian nationalists want the privilege of operating beyond any zone of criticism. Some of the more indignant zealots seem to crave an American version of Pakistan's blasphemy laws, which forbid derogatory comments against Islam or Allah under dire penalty, yet the very notion of an unquestionable faith or an idea is an anathema to true liberty. An American Christian should not get preferential treatment every time they cry foul. Is there genuine persecution of Christians in our world? Absolutely. Just as there is genuine persecution of Jews, Muslims, Hindus, Buddhists, Sikhs, atheists, and in any instance where one tribe wishes to dominate another. These acts of oppression, torture, murder, and genocide are repugnant to all moral creatures, but it's repulsive for unrepressed American Christians to invoke the Armenian genocide, the Third Reich, and ISIS beheadings to fortify their local perches of entitlement. They invoke true atrocity to sell panic about an imaginary threat to liberty. For example, Fox News columnist Douglas McKinnon constantly stokes fears about imminent liberal persecution, asking, How long will I be allowed to remain a Christian? That's a quote, by the way. The National Review warns of, quote, campaigns of legal and social harassment against American Christians. The Christian Post predicts a, quote, coming of persecution for American Christians. Televangelist Jim Baker frets that a Democratic presidential victory in 2020 would result in American Christians being murdered in the streets. Yet these evangelicals shouting from the tops of their high mountains are not being dragged to a Colosseum execution by the Roman Empire. They're merely being required to share their abundance with others. And they are finally starting to be held constitutionally accountable. They are being disagreed with, challenged, contradicted. In a truly free nation, religion should be, they must be contradicted. With the rising of the nuns, the non-religious, these challenges will occur more and more. Christian nationalists will become increasingly desperate, and like a cornered animal, they will flail and bite and claw. They'll sermonize about disobedience, despotism, and divine wrath. They'll invoke history's greatest monsters. They'll grumble about permissiveness and moral anarchy. They'll fabricate stories about the founding fathers. They will huff at the other, those different from them who demand equal treatment, equal rights, equal opportunities, and equal representation. The pious will warn of hellfire, and they'll likely continue to sell their proverbial souls for any promise of privilege. God speak all this week by these people who are acting like their specific religion has a stamp of ownership on the whole country. It's maddening. And they're fear-pimping all of these stories about how they're going to come and try to take things away from you. This has been a narrative since whenever. They're coming for your liberties. They're coming for your ability to speak freely. They're coming to strip away your right to worship or own a Bible or pray in public or believe. They're certainly coming for your firearms. Well, they're coming. That was one of the arguments I had from a family member. Sent me a message the other day and said, you're not going to vote against Trump, are you? And I'm like, you damn well right I'm going to vote against Trump. Are you kidding me? I'm voting really against the overwhelming overreach of the evangelical right and the moral rot of the Republican Party. You bet I'm voting against Trump right now. I don't even like Biden. But I just feel like it's a no-brainer for me. I'm voting for the Supreme Court. I'm voting for the Department of Education. I'm voting for the Department of Energy. I'm voting to promote science and reason in issues like climate change. I'm voting to help support the rights of my LGBT allies and friends. I'm voting for a whole host of reasons that have really very little to do with the candidates themselves. And her response to me was, they're going to come for your guns. I mean, that's how she thinks. And it's effective to a specific demographic. They're going to come and they're going to take away all the goodness in your life. They're coming for you. They're coming. The immigrants are coming. They're hoarding at the southern border, and they're going to come over here and they're going to strip you of America. This plays well to his base. And it makes me crazy. How the hell are you oppressed? You've had a seat at the head of the table since whenever. Trying to make the rest of us second-class citizens since whenever. What's that line? When you're in a position of privilege, equality feels like oppression. And yet all week long, I got to sit back and watch the RNC scream oppression and persecution. And it's going to play well to their base. And then I get discouraged. I wonder, and I really do have a suspicion that it ain't going to get better. We're only going to become more polarized. I do have hope that there is a group of people that will increase rationality, walk away from magical thinking, be humanists, and be interested in their fellow human beings, less about tribalism and more about being kind of a xenophilic, someone who promotes humankind as a whole, not just within these borders, but I mean in colors and cultures all across the planet, all around the planet. Across the planet would be a flat earth statement. Flat earthers! We have flat earthers in the 21st century. I get discouraged. What? I got a lady on my Facebook page. I have not blocked her yet, and I am this close who's spreading a bunch of anti-vax propaganda. Vaccinations cause all of these horrors. Holy shit. Does she have children? God, I hope not. Because they may not have been vaccinated. I mean, when parents have really bad ideas, it infects their children. They often inhibit their children, how they approach the rest of the world. That's one of the reasons I'm against the indoctrination of children, is because it primes them to magical thinking. I think it's one of the reasons that the MAGA types and the evangelical right are such easy targets for conspiracy theories, because they're already wired to believe the unbelievable. They're already wired to think irrationally. And it affects everything, how they raise their children, how they exist in their lives and offices and neighborhoods, certainly how they vote, what they value. So I don't know that we're going to solve that. I mean, we can try. I think we should continue fighting. I'm not giving up, but I am discouraged. And I feel that heaviness. I understand what Natalie's talking about. You feel like, you know what we need? Cow yoga. No. Stay with me. Stay with me. I just saw this article. Now, I'll admit I don't know what this news outlet is. I'm hoping, please let this be real. From Lanx.live. I don't know what that is. I don't even know how to say this. Lancashire? Cow yoga now canceled. And farm apologizes for offending Hindus. Well, okay. And there's a photograph. There's people practicing cow yoga, dairy cows grazing in a field while there is a yoga instructor and their class in the middle of the field with the cows. Now, I have heard of goat yoga, like where the baby goats crawl all over you. And there's like puppy yoga and there's cat yoga. Well, there's cow yoga. So there's people who are out in cattle fields, dairy cow cattle fields, and they are doing yoga. And the Hindus had a fit. Free-range yogurt brand, Lancashire. Forgive me for butchering it. Farm dairies invited yoga enthusiasts to their first ever cow yoga session at Paradise Farm in Leyland last week, but has now said they will no longer hold the sessions following criticism from the Hindu community. The dairies now apologize for offending the religion after Hindus protested, saying the event trivializes two serious concepts of Hinduism. Now, how are they accosting the cows? It's like they're fellow grazers. They're just walking around the field with the cows. How is this desecrating the cow? I would think it would zen the cow out. They're dairy cows. Maybe that causes them to produce more milk. I would do cow yoga. By the way, I've heard yoga will kick your ass. Like I used to think, yoga, you sit around and stretching? Come on. That's not a real workout. And then I learned what yoga was. Yoga. I'll kick your ass. Natalie bought a couple of yoga mats. They remain wrapped in plastic. We have not even tried it yet. I'm terrified. And then you hear about things like hot yoga. Hot yoga. Where they keep the room at triple-digit temperatures. 100 degrees. Everybody come in here. We're going to do yoga for an hour and sweat until we want to die. I mean, that's crazy. I would do cow yoga. There's a part of my culture that I came out of, fundamental Christianity. They believed that yoga was actually the practicing of a kind of a cult. This was the satanic panic. Even yoga was of the devil. But now I just look at it as it's a way to go out and kind of center yourself and work the body out. It's a lot of resistance and stretching, as I understand it. But people who have done it and done it right say, oh my God, it's hard. They love it, but they say it's really hard. If I do it, I'm not doing the pants. If I do yoga, not doing the yoga pants. I mean, certainly not in front of all the observing cows. I'm not going to do it. The cows watching me? There was another reason I wanted to jump off the top of a very tall bridge. Oh, it's this story. Jim Baker, scam evangelist and ex-con, gets PPP loans during legal fight on fraud claims. All right, so while he's being prosecuted for fraud, he receives PPP loans. While he is shilling his slop buckets on television because, you know, the apocalypse, and one day Christians are going to be murdered in the streets if the Democrats win the election, while he is busy scamming people with end-of-the-world radios so they can communicate with each other as, you know, fire and sulfur falls from the sky, he is getting money from taxpayers. From the article, when the U.S. government extended pandemic hardship loans to thousands of religious institutions, Jim Baker and Morningside USA, his ministry in Blue Eye, Missouri, were among the most high-profile recipients. On April the 28th, the pastor received approval for an amount between $650,000 and $1.7 million in Paycheck Protection Program funds. Is it a church or is it a business? Is it a ministry or is it a for-profit corporation? I guess he's pulling a Ken Ham, right? It's a ministry whenever you need tax benefits. It's a business when you need a government loan. This guy's still around, making money in the 21st century. We as a culture enabled it. Yes, I'm discouraged. I don't think there's enough cow yoga in the world to de-stress someone after you read stories like that. Then I posted this. I saw this floating around. Thanks to David Fitzgerald for posting it because I think it has a good message. I'm one of those people. I'm not opposed to identity politics. And I just say the words and people are already freaking out. They're about to call the switchboard and they're about to rake me over the coals. And they're going crazy in the comment sections. Just stop. I think there is utility in drawing attention to marginalized demographics who face specific issues. I think there is utility in drawing attention to systemic racism. I think Black Lives Matter is a worthy idea and movement. It's not perfect, but I like the idea of drawing attention to this, what I would consider to be a simple notion that having been dehumanized for so long throughout our history, we need to be saying, look, they matter. No more, no less, but they matter. There's another cop shooting, was it 2 days ago? How many shots did they fire into the guy's back? So I saw this posted by Dave Fitzgerald. BLM versus ALM, Black Lives Matter versus All Lives Matter. Now take this or leave this, but I like it. It says, if my spouse comes to me in obvious pain and asks, do you love me? An answer of, I love everyone, would be truthful, but also hurtful and cruel in the moment. If a coworker comes to me upset and says, my father just died, a response of everyone's parents die would be truthful, but hurtful and cruel in the moment. So when a friend speaks up in a time of obvious pain and hurt and says, Black Lives Matter, a response of all lives matter is truthful, but it's hurtful and cruel in the moment. That is a wonderful encapsulation of what Black Lives Matter means from my perspective. It's like when someone says, save the whales, because the whales are being hunted to the point of near extinction at some point in our recent history. Save the whales. Greenpeace is out there, you know. You don't hear other people going, all fish matter. Because we're drawing attention to a specific problem and what many of us consider is a systemic problem. I just thought it was a great sentiment. I posted that online and people are chewing each other to ribbons over it. Basic goodness, you know, basic goodness and empathy and kindness and compassion and advocacy. I mean, now I'm frustrated by members of the quote unquote atheist community. This is humanism. Oh, I've been corrected in the chat room. Yeah, I get it. Whales aren't fish. You know what I'm talking about. All right. All ocean life matters. It's a figure of speech. I get it. It's what happens when you do a show in front of a bunch of rationalists. I'll correct you on the record. My favorite was whenever I had done a video a long time ago about how the earth was round and not flat. And I got a ton of correspondence and people are like, the earth is not round. It is an oblate spheroid. All right, yeah. Oblate spheroid. I went back and made the correction. I receive your correction, my brothers, and I will update my position based on the evidence. Thank you very much. Unlike religious people, I will update and say that all ocean life matters. It's actually a really good point. On the switchboard 813, hey, who's this?
Hey, Seth, this is Kyle.
Kyle, thanks for calling. What do you think?
Well, it's kind of like you were saying earlier that it's a lot about just being kind to each other even when we're wrong. I got a bunch of family that are all Catholics and a couple people who really, really love Trump. But we draw the line at being nasty to each other, and we realize at the end of the day we're family, we're friends, we've known each other for 20 years, and screw the box that we put each other in. And then we all have a good time. It's a lot of work, but we do it.
Let me chew on that for a minute. But thanks for the call, man. I appreciate you very much.
Absolutely, Seth. Have a good one.
You bet. See you later. Somebody in the chat room's like, what about the freshwater fish? Oh, shit. All things that live in the water matter. It just doesn't get any better the more I try to fix it. It's not so simple to say I agree to disagree when we're talking about matters of our values. If you are someone who is actively working to discriminate against my friends and advocates and the people I care about, the causes I care about, basic human goodness, if you are an opposition to that, even if you are deluded, it's not so simple as us looking at each other and saying, I just think we should agree to disagree and hold hands and kumbaya. I'm not saying we cast everybody off who disagrees with us in that way. I'm not saying that it always has to be about this hard dividing line or screw you, because we need to continue, I think, to interact with those we disagree with. But there is a point when you are actively working for the destruction of the things that I hold most dear. And I do think there are moments in our lives when we do say, I don't have to put up with this in my circle. I don't have to abide it. I certainly don't have to watch it. If you are going to be an awful human being, or you're going to support awfulness while you rationalize it, you know what? You do that in your own sandbox. I don't even want to watch. It's a dumpster fire. I do not want to have to smell the acrid smoke. There's a time for that. If you're going to be bigoted against my friends who are gay, I don't have any time for you. That's just where I've come. If you're going to go out and declare that the country belongs to you and your specific faith, and I am a second-class citizen, I don't have to sit around and listen to that. I don't have to be in the same room with that. I don't have to spend Thanksgiving dinner with that. Essentially, the Christian nationalists think that I can't be good, I can't be rational, I can't be moral, I can't have purpose, I can't properly love, I can't extract the marrow from this life, I can't exhibit any real goodness unless I think like they do. And until I line up with them, I'm a second-class citizen. Do I have to sit around and put up with that? Do we just agree to disagree? It's not that simple. But I do like the idea of them being presented with, day by day, in their physical presence, a refutation to the idea that I'm a terrible human being. Because, if they see somebody who's actually doing good work and who is charitable and who does have laughter and who does love his family and who is fun to be around, and, is genuinely living life on his own terms. And lightning is not coming from the sky, and he's not covered with boils. His eyes are not crimson red because the devil is within him. You know, if they are confronted with this physical example that is the refutation of everything that they think, I think there's some utility in that. But it's just hard. I mean, do you really want to sit around, swallow the bile while people around you are just being awful moment by moment? It's a tough balance for me. And I think sometimes it's just fine to draw the line and say, if you're going to be awful, you go back to your own place. All right? I'm going to go over here. I'm going to put some geographic distance between us because I just can't watch. And I don't have to. 304. Hi, thanks for waiting. Who's this?
Hey, Seth, this is Shane Mitchell. I'm calling you from the heart of White Jesus country in West Virginia.
Oh, White Jesus. Yeah, I've seen him on oil paintings all across the Midwest and the South. That's awesome. What's on your mind?
Yeah. First of all, got your book, read your book, love the book. Everybody should buy it. I'm plugging Seth Andrews on his own show right now, so for everybody in the chat, go buy a copy of this book right now and read it because it'll change your perspective on a lot of stuff.
Where's my credit card number? Hang on,
book,
I owe you something for that. I give you my Visa card number for that. No, you're very kind.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
But just, I was listening, the whole thing about these mega pastors, telescam evangelists, getting PPP loans irritates me to no end, and I have good reason for that. When I was still an evangelical, I don't know if that's the right title or not, but I belonged to one of those mega-type churches here in West Virginia that had probably 2,800 people that darkened the door of that place every weekend. I was actually on the worship team. I was a drummer on the worship team, and I bought into that hook, line, and sinker for 20-some years of my life. And, when you talk about a place like that, of that magnitude and size, where do we start having the conversation in this country? Where do we begin with saying a place such as this place that I used to attend, whose operating budget was $3.5 million a year, should be taxed? I know this has been brought up before, but I don't think that it's gained any ground. And then you start looking at these places like, okay, Jim Bakker and his garbage telecast. You got crazy Kenneth Copeland, who I just read that TBN's dropping him like a hot rock, but they're picking up one just as bad in Stephen Furtick, which, all it is trying to play to the younger generation. And it's always give me money. And the problem in our country today, and it's on both sides of the aisle, is that nobody wants to have the discussion that a church becomes a business, then it should become taxed.
Here's the problem I have with taxing the churches. And I agree with what you're saying in the spirit of what you're saying, but are we not then validating their crossing of the constitutional state church line by then treating them like a business? I'm not saying that we shouldn't hold them accountable, because right now as 501c3s, they're able to hide a lot of what their financials are as opposed to other nonprofits. It's a total double standard. But if you tax them, are you then sort of validating this anti-constitutional overreach?
That's a very good point, and I appreciate that because I'd never really thought of that.
I think the point is this: would it not be better? And I used to think tax the churches, and I'm still not totally sure. I don't think that, but part of me is thinking the problem is that they're the ones who crossed the constitutional line. Would a better move be to back them over the line and keep them where they were supposed to be?
The other thing I wanted to talk about was, it's funny to me, years ago, that's why I like watching your stuff and following your work, because you've had a huge impact on me, and I'm not just saying that, but you really have. And back when I was an evangelical, and I think you understand this, oh man, gays were awful, and anybody that didn't believe was awful, and everybody with a different belief system was going to hell and all this stuff. And back then, I said that I was a bigot, and I'm not proud of that fact. But, I've come out of that. And this fall, my oldest daughter is marrying her wife, and we're helping them plan the wedding. And we have taken this young lady that she brought into our family with open arms, and we love unconditionally. And it is a very beautiful thing. And we're very proud of the both of them for standing up for who they are, what they believe in. And, it's interesting because I had to sit down with my oldest daughter a while back, and it was just her and I were having this discussion. And I said, I told her, I said, I have to say I apologize, because she knew she was gay a long time ago and tried to live a lie, which is miserable for anybody. And I'm very proud of her for finding who she is and coming to me and having enough courage to tell me these things. And, instead of 99% of what your evangelical Christians would do is probably shun that child, stick them out on the street, disown them, things like that. And I don't know that I would have ever gone that far, but I certainly would have had a problem with it back then. I don't now. And, she brought this young lady home. We've sat down, we've talked. She's part of our family, and we're looking so forward to it. And they will be married in October, and we're proud of her. And, I just have become a huge advocate of the LGBT community because of this. And it's like you were discussing earlier, it's equal rights. They don't want to infect you with the gay. They want equal treatment. And as humans, everybody should be treated equally, because when you strip our skin off down to the bones, we're all the same.
Well, you inspire me. And please congratulate your daughter for me and all of us in the chat room. And thanks for inspiring us today, my friend. It's great to talk to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Have a wonderful day.
All right. Take care. I mean, I don't know if 99% of Christians would cast off their, but I get his sentiment. I mean, there's enough of it that happens, this sort of tough love mentality, Well, if we allow you into our embrace, then we're endorsing your perversion of God's model for human sexuality. So, I mean, I saw, as far as an atheist, like if I was to sit down with my parents and say, do you accept me for who I am? They would not be able to answer the question, or they would just say no. Because acceptance is, in their mind, endorsement. And they can't endorse. Their religion doesn't allow them to endorse. Their religion doesn't allow them to give me permission to be me, to live my life. And we see this all the time with people who are different than their parents expected or intended. I'm not an echo of you. I am me, whatever that is. Do you accept me for who I am? And it's a beautiful thing whenever the parent is able to say, yeah, hell yeah. When a parent says, maybe with conditions, or just outright no, part of me I just think, fuck them. I just come to that point. I'm sorry, you don't accept me for who I am? I'm invalid? Well, you don't get to determine that. You're not my identity. You don't set my identity. You don't tell me whether or not I have value, or whether or not my perspectives or opinions have value, or how I identify has value. That ain't on you. That's not your domain. You don't get to do that. You don't have permission to do that. And if you try, I think some of that is just bad. You develop after a while. It's like those calluses, right? You develop the callus and you become hardened, and you're like, you know what? I've been down this road 1,000 times. There's no convincing them. They continue to tell me that I am not, I am not, I am not, you are not, they are not, they are not, they are not. Fuck them. I'm not proud of it. I'm not proud of that part of myself. I don't like that part of myself. I'm not ashamed of it, but I hate the fact that I got there. Because I know in many ways they're victims of bad ideas, and we need to try to do our best to continue to counter all the bad things that they have been brainwashed with. And all those things are true. All those things are true. But I'll tell you, after 13 years, fuck them. I hate that about myself. I've just come to that point. Daughter comes out to you as gay, and you say, I don't accept you. I won't go to your wedding. I won't give you support. I won't truly love you unconditionally. Fuck them. So much more to talk about. We have plenty of listener calls to come, and we'll do it on the other side of this. Hang on. The world is crazy. Things are stressful. Quarantine hasn't helped. We look around and worry about the collective IQ of our own species. We've got the conspiratorial, we've got the corrupt, we've got people who were just deluded, we've got all manner of calamity that's bursting through our social media pages. We're not wired for this. We need, if there is like Zen, like a chance to Zen ourselves out, right? Align your spine, so to speak, to sit upright and hold your hands out in that sort of yoga pose and just breathe. And if we get the chance, we can do it in a field with cows, because apparently, as we've discovered earlier in the show, cow yoga is a thing. I think there's a way to pull that off without offending the Hindus. I would go out to a field, burn a little incense, play some Yanni music in the background. The cows are just kind of grazing all around me, and you just decompress. Cow yoga. I would do it. Like, how would a cow look in yoga pants? You got a visual in your head right now. I know you do. Because you think like I do. This is how our brains work. Cows in yoga pants. I dare you to Google it, by the way. I bet there's images. I don't know. Hi, 863. Forgive the rant and the long wait. Who's this?
Danielle.
Hey, Danielle. Talk to me. What do you want to talk about today?
Well, that was a great rant. I love it. I happen to be transgendered, so I have a lot of the same issues. No, I was going to call in and basically look at like how we basically talked a large segment of the society into not believing in science anymore, so they can kind of get them into the church. And then we're surprised when, a large segment of society, doesn't want to wear a mask or something like that. But
yeah, it's, I think there's a conspiracy and persecution mentality, so that everything that is sort of imposed by a society for the benefit of society is somehow twisted and interpreted into an attack on their liberty and freedom and God belief. Everything to them is a threat. What a sad way to live, right?
Well, it's the same scientists that want to teach them about evolution. It's the same scientists that want to, teach them about the gays and all that kind of scary stuff. It's the same. It's literally the same stuff.
Well, I've decided from now on, when they invoke the Bible in distrust of science, instead of saying the Bible, I just, at least at this moment in my life, I actually refer to it as the Talking Animals book. So they'll be like, well, the Bible says this. And I say, all right, hang on just a second. So the Talking Animals book tells you that, and it drives them crazy. I mean, I know it's probably counterproductive, but it just feels so good in the moment. All right, well, the Bible says that you need to do this. The Bible says one man, one woman. The Bible says blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, all right, so the Talking Animals book says that we should do this. And it just makes them crazy. And my hope originally was to try to, sort of show them that, quoting this book, it's you're quoting a comic book, like a really dark, twisted, bizarre comic book, to try to sell your position. And I haven't had a lot of success with it, but it feels good in the short term. So, but I'm glad you found your own voice. I'm glad you're doing life your way, Danielle. That's freaking amazing. I hope you're do you have a support system somewhere? People who look out for you?
Yeah. Of course, I have a partner and it's a wonderful life. I mean, that's what, like, the whole thing that Christians, a lot of the people that are arguing against it, don't seem to understand is we just all want to live our own lives. We want to have a good life. We want to have a family. We want to have loved ones. We want to have the same lives that everybody else wants. We don't want to change your rights. We don't want to intrude in your life. It's just like everybody else. We just want to have our own.
Yeah, it's like I said in that video to Pastor Greg Locke, who's always freaked out about gay marriage. I'm like, if gay marriage can affect your marriage, then either you or your spouse is gay, right? I mean, it's not like...
Oh, no.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, it makes no sense to get yourself worked up about it.
Yeah, but it makes great fodder for their congregations. it really riles them up. They get to, oh my God, 100 genders. Oh no, how could we learn that? So it's like,
yeah. Well,
whatever.
the most important thing is that you get to be you on your terms. And so in that way, you encourage me.
Of course.
You and cow yoga today have brought great encouragement into my day. So thank you very much for the call.
We'll do what we all need to do. Live our lives, have a wonderful life, and don't let anybody else like that destroy it.
That's the theme of the show. Thanks for calling, Danielle. You take care, all right?
Love you, man.
All right, you too.
Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Can't say it any better than that. 510. Hi, thanks for waiting. Who's this?
This is Dee Dee.
Hi, Dee Dee. What's going on?
Well, I've gotten myself into a bit of a pickle, so I kind of wanted some advice. I've been deconverting for the last couple of years. It's been painful, difficult, lost family, lost friends. I was all in. I mean, I was a youth minister. I went to Liberty University to get my master's in religious education. Yeah, I did it all. And actually going to Liberty is what started my deconversion. My pastor actually said, the more you learn about the Bible, it's not a good thing educationally. I thought he was kidding. Well, that started the whole process of going downhill. But it's been a very good experience for me. I'm a lesbian, but I did not live a lesbian lifestyle because it was forbidden by family and my church. And so that was my own personal secret for a very, very long time. And then got out of all of that. I'm pretty much out. On my car, I have rainbow stickers and a rainbow bumper sticker and a rainbow license plate. But I went back to school since the master's did me and became a school counselor, which has been my dream job for so many years. I'm older. I'm in my 50s. I had a lot of trouble finding a job as a school counselor. So I went through a recruitment agency, and they connected me up with a company that hires out student services, which is what a school counselor is. And I was hired. And they said, we're going to send you to a school. And I got sent to a Catholic school. And unfortunately, the Catholic school is in my town. I live in a very small, very conservative, very redneck little city in Ohio. And I'm afraid to even drive my car to work. I walk because I have my stickers on my car. And I had a lot. I needed this job so badly. It's my foot in the door. I've just started, but I had to go to Mass. I've had to talk to the children about faith over fear when it comes to the virus. And I feel like I am a traitor. I feel like I'm betraying what I've spent the last 2 years trying to get out of.
I always like to say this is chess, not checkers. And there are some people I think who would disagree with me, and I think, they should be heard. But it's almost like when I talk to a college student who calls and they say, my parents are paying for my tuition. And they've told me that if I don't walk away from this atheism thing, they're going to cut off my funding. So essentially, they're holding him financially hostage. They're holding his future hostage. And in, I think, some ways I see a parallel. You feel like there's a culture that has you painted into a corner where if you are true to yourself, they are going to penalize you and perhaps negatively impact the rest of your life. Would that be an accurate way to sort of phrase what's going on?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I cannot afford not to have this job. I need my foot in the door, but I feel like I'm betraying everything I stood for. And I have a 16-year-old son who he's been super supportive, but he's like, Mom, but you have to be who you are. And I'm like, no, I can't.
Yeah.
I can't. And he doesn't understand that.
Well, I'm not a professional counselor. I'm just a guy, but we're talking like real people. I mean, I can't look into your windows and see exactly what the specifics are. It is always my hope that someone gets to live an authentic life. So long term, and this might be a few years down the road, my hope for you would be that you end up in a place where you're not having to be guarded. Having said that, I think your journey is really about you. It's about you. It's about your heart. No one can change how you feel in your heart and in your mind, how you raise your children, what your value system is. And if you find yourself in a position where you are again playing chess, not checkers, you are sort of navigating through a career path where maybe this chapter, it's almost like someone who is a musician, a professional musician who plays in a Christian band. And they go on stage and they're playing the songs, but in the mind, they don't necessarily buy it. But this is all they've got. They've got a mortgage to pay and kids to feed. My hope for them is not that they'll throw caution to the wind and put themselves in jeopardy, but that they'll be able to sort of, do what they got to do in the moment with the long goal of trying to find a way to live an authentic life. So just as a buddy, I would say, short term, do what you got to do. If this is the first step in a career that may lead to other opportunities where you can open up, then, if it means biting your tongue and it means being a rationalist at home on your terms and in your own social circles within your family, doing that. And over here, you've got to play a longer game. You got to be a little more guarded with the end goal of one day saying goodbye to it and being able to breathe the free air. I think that's okay. It's almost like Dan Barker, right? He was a pastor for 2 years while he was an atheist, middle-aged guy trying to figure out, how am I going to get out of this? So he was up there doing his sermons and he just, he was trying to navigate to a point where he could feed his family and start the next chapter. And to do that, he had to grit his teeth for about 24 months. You may be there. Don't beat yourself up though. Okay, don't punish yourself because they placed you in this position. But, I think keep your eyes on the next step where you can be among those who are not superstitious and who are more accepting. I mean, does that make any sense? Does it help at all?
Yeah, it does. It does. I've been struggling because I want to be true to myself, but I need this job. And I did belong to a Facebook group, Atheist Women, and they were brutal. They were like, nope, can't do it. You're turning back into one of them, even if you're pretending. And I'm like, you don't understand. I have to have this job. So I actually pulled out of the group for a while because I was overwhelmed. I'm like, they don't understand where I'm coming from. And then, of course, my religious friends are like, see, God's trying to get you back in. He's trying to get your attention.
Well, I mean, I'm grieved by the idea that out of your mouth would come the language of superstition, especially if there are the impressionable and vulnerable around you. And I would hope that you could find a way to sort of make it more about humanism. Again, that's what Dan Barker did. He was able to take his sermons, but he made them more about people and not as much about the dogma. That may or may not be in the cards for you. But
I think it's going to be okay with the kids. They're younger kids. It's pre-K through 6th grade, and I am focusing on their social emotional issues and mental health. And I really feel that I can navigate around religion. I've gotten pretty good at it. It's more just being there and the staff and pretending to be something I'm not. But I think I'm a good thing for the kids, and maybe if nothing else, that will be a saving grace, if you want.
I like the way you think.
Of my being there with the kids.
Right? You can be there and be a positive influence and not be the teacher that pounds guilt and shame into their skulls. Maybe we can take these lemons, make a little lemonade, and then over the course of time, you just keep your eyes and ears open for a next chapter where you don't have to be quite so guarded. I buy it. The listeners may disagree, and we'll watch the chat room, but, I'm glad there's a rationalist in the room. Maybe we can turn that to your advantage, okay?
I hope so. Thank you, Seth.
See you later.
And I love your book. I'm about halfway through.
You're very kind.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
I didn't make her say that either. 248, hi. Who's this?
This is Perry. Seth, how are you?
I'm well. What's on your mind?
So some 40 years ago, my then Catholic mother became an evangelical Christian, and I knew that was going to be difficult. And over the years, we've had the ups and downs with her being very into her church, and she's calmed down a little bit more, but now she's in her mid-80s and still believing in that and everything. And my biggest concern is, although she doesn't continue to pursue me per se, because I've made it quite clear that that's not my bag. She's not in the best of health, and I'm fully expecting that, if she has to go to a hospital or a nursing home at some point where she's, on a deathbed, she's going to ask that question: will you accept Jesus Christ before I pass? And it's just something that's continued to eat at me, figuring that it will happen. I don't know if it will, but I'm fully expecting it to. And I just don't know how to answer.
I think I was asking Dillahunty about this in the audience on the Atheist Experience. I think I've talked about it on this show before. Like, when my parents are on their deathbed and there's no one else in the room and it doesn't make any difference, and I might give them a moment of comfort in their final breaths, would I tell them that I would accept Jesus to give them some peace as an act of compassion? And I don't know the answer. Part of me thinks if I was the only person in the room, the act of kindness and compassion would be to lie, to give them a sense of peace at that final moment. And the other part of me thinks, how did I get in a position where I'm supposed to verbally admit or lie that I'm not who I am, to bend to their model of acceptance so that they can feel better? Shouldn't I hold to my convictions? And it's funny, from day to day, I go back and forth. I don't know what the right answer is, but is that the dilemma that you're experiencing right now?
It is, and it's almost like I want to be proactive or preemptive, maybe to sit there and just have a frank discussion and say, I'm not a believer, and I'm not going to be one, to try to avoid that one. But, at that moment, you never know what's going to happen. So,
I can't advise. Because in my own mind, I still wrestle with it. I think I'm going to probably have to assess in the moment, where am I in my heart? Where am I in my attitudes? What's the temperature of our relationship at that time? Is he coming at me with this sort of malignant judgment, which would then reinforce my desire to say no, hell no? Or is he genuinely so indoctrinated and grieved and desperate that, it's something else, and this is a chance to sort of soothe these irrational fears that he has in an inconsequential conversation, inconsequential except for him? That might change my decision. I think in my own head, I've kind of decided that I don't know, and I won't know until the moment. But whatever the humanist thing is, that's where I want to land. I think, that's got to be part of the decision-making process. What's the kind, compassionate, humanist thing to do? Beyond my pride, beyond all the baggage, what's the right thing to do? And, all I can do is say, I'll assess it when the moment comes, and that's the best I can say to you, just go with it in the moment, assess it as it comes, and, see what happens then.
Yeah, I've often thought that would probably be, the best way to go. We've got a large family, 6 kids in our family. I've got a sister that's Catholic. I've got others that really aren't religious. I got a brother that actually dove into my mother's evangelical church, but he's a bit of a hypocrite too. So it's like you say, if I was the only one in the room, I think it would be fairly easy. But likely, as anyone would like, if they were, on their deathbed, they want their whole family around them. Yeah. So it's going to be a tough choice.
And there may be language that you can use. I mean, not to sell out, but to be like, Dad, if there is a heaven, I hope I see you there, if we are able to meet again, I certainly hold on to that hope. And, I'm here with you now, and I love you so much. And, I think there's a way to redirect, to make it more about the human moment, human touch, the support that he needs as a person without having to drift off into superstition. You may be able to sort of redirect that, but however it shakes out, I hope that, I hope it's not soon, certainly. And if it does happen, I'd be curious to know what the result was. Feel free, if you feel comfortable, to share it when it does take place, okay?
Will do. Thank you very much for that. That's good advice.
All right. I appreciate it. Thank you. It wasn't even advice, really, was it? It's like, I'm not trying to be a politician. I'm not trying to be like, yes and no, Schrodinger's answer. If you lie in the moment and you're the only one in the room, and that lie is about alleviating suffering to a brainwashed person who is in pain because they have been indoctrinated with these terrors of hell, is that lie an inconsequential act to everyone else, but a consequential act of humanism toward the indoctrinated? Or is it a lie and it should be rejected because you need to be true to yourself? I can't figure it out. I'm not smart enough to know the answer to this question. Fortunately, I think here's the truth. People don't call me for wisdom. I am not the great oracle. I'm not that guy. And I know it. I think we should all try to be thinkers, hence thethinkingatheist.com, but we're also all on the journey together, which is really what the show is about. Conversations, community, encouraging each other, challenging each other. Do we agree? Do we disagree? Do we have a different perspective? And you may have heard some of the comments and questions. You've got a different perspective. I think this is part of what the community is about. So, for all of my shortcomings and shortfalls when it comes to, having an answer, not having an answer, you have my humblest apology. I think I'm doing the best I can. I think we're all doing the best we can in the hopes of trying to find and pursue the best answers wherever they are. And that's a worthy goal. So if this show represents that, hey, I can sleep pretty well at night with that knowledge. Thanks so much for listening. Be safe. I will see you back here next week. Take care.
Follow The Thinking Atheist on Facebook and Twitter for a complete archive of podcasts and videos, products like mugs and t-shirts featuring the Thinking Atheist logo, links to atheist pages and resources, and details on upcoming free thought events and conventions. Log on to our website, thethinkingatheist.com.